What's up, beautiful people? How are you guys doing today? My name is Luffy, coming back to you guys again with another video. Today's video, I want to talk to you guys about some updates to the Paycheck Protection Program from the last time I spoke to you guys about it. So the last update I gave you guys was that there was an HR Bill 7010, House of Representatives Bill 7010, which was an amendment to the CARES Act. And what it sought to do was amend the Paycheck Protection Program by increasing the flexibility of the program and the terms of the program. In fact, the bill is actually called the Paycheck Protection Program Flexibility Act of 2020. So you guys might have seen it on the news. Some of the new updates: originally 75% of your loan amount had to go towards payroll cost for you to qualify for forgiveness. This has now been reduced to 60%. In addition, there was an 8-week covered period beforehand. We're now looking at about a 24-week covered period, 6 months until the end of the year covered period. That's the amount of time that you have to use the loan proceeds so that they can qualify for forgiveness. That's huge. The first thing I mentioned, huge. But the biggest thing that no one is mentioning is the updated terms for forgiveness. So I mentioned this multiple times before. I'm going to say it again. Go to question 40 of the Paycheck Protection Program Frequently Asked Questions. It's a joint report that was put out by the SBA and the Treasury. Question 40 addresses the question: what happens if I want to rehire an employee and the employee doesn't want to come back to work? Well, in that instance, what the SBA and Treasury is advising small business owners to do is to make documentation of that event. And then when they apply for forgiveness, just have your documentation on file. In fact, if you look at the PPP forgiveness application, you don't need to even submit that documentation stating that your former employee doesn't want to come back to work so that you can be granted forgiveness. You need to have that documentation, but you don't necessarily need to submit it with your application. That's an important distinction, because when you add that in with Section 7 of this act, it's a huge loophole. It's basically free money, and it's what I've been trying to tell you guys. It's why I've continuously made videos updating you guys about the Paycheck Protection Program, because from the very first time I saw that they were even working on a Paycheck Protection Program amendment, I knew right then and there what were the intentions, motivations, drivers behind congressional members, and that is the protection and the security of their financial resources and assets, and people who have financial resources and assets just like them. So you guys are over here wondering when the next $1,200 stimulus check is. It's been months since that last $1,200 stimulus check passed. If you guys even remember, that last $1,200 was actually passed back in March with the CARES Act. March. We're in June right now. But Congress isn't worried about writing you another $1,200 check when they can write businesses $120,000 forgivable loans in the form of PPP. Now, these loans, no doubt in my mind, are forgivable. Not just forgivable, but they will be forgiven to small business owners, of course, who use it in the appropriate way, but nonetheless, it's so easy given this new guidelines. It was basically, they wrote a blank check to businesses. And this proves to me, at the very least, that if you are not a business owner, if you are not an entrepreneur, if you are not an owner of real estate, an owner of stocks, if you don't have assets to your name, you need to acquire them ASAP. Because that is what matters in American society. Unfortunately, I'm not saying it's the right thing. I'm not saying what it should or ought to be. I'm telling you what it is. And unfortunately, the way this society is set up is the people who matter are the people who have shit of value. So most people who are getting $1,200 stimulus checks, I mean, to even qualify for a $1,200 stimulus check, you need to make less than, I think, $75,000 a year. You don't fit into the demographic of people necessarily who have millions of dollars in assets and employ thousands of people and do payroll, 6-figure, 7-figure payrolls. So Congress isn't that worried about you in this economy. I've said it again and again, and I'll continue to say it. Poor people make money in good economies. Rich people make money regardless of the economy. And no time other than the present is that evident. There's verbiage basically in this legislation that allows pretty much for business owners to get a free check. Where's your free check? It's not coming. Unless you start a business, unless you invest in assets, unless you own real estate. Play the game, guys. That's the only reason I'm telling you guys this. I told you from the last video, they're gonna pass this, and just yesterday the Senate passed it. This is the only bill within the last 100 bills that have been introduced in the House of Representatives to even move on to the second stage, to even get past the House of Representatives, let alone to get past the Senate. In the past 100 bills that have been introduced, this is the only one that progress has actually been made on. What does that tell you about what people value? Watch how people move, not what they say. They might go on TV and say, we care about the people. It's like they do care about the people, but which people? The people who have shit. So get shit so that people will care about you. That's all I really got to say for today, guys. One love as always. I'm out.